Okay, Winnie, are we good to go?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The board met tonight in executive session. We're now ready to start the public portion of our meeting. We had a bit of public correspondence since our last meeting, which was January 6th. We had an email from Yasemin and Mark Veland with their thoughts on return to full-time in-person instruction. And that has been acknowledged and responded to. It's clearly what we are all working for whenever that happens. And then we had, I received a letter from Tom Johnston, which was just a letter of appreciation for the district's efforts in keeping the schools open. So that is written communication. In the president's report, I will tell you that at this moment there are 32 participants in the call. I believe 13 or 14 of them are Board of Education people, so there would be perhaps 20 others. So right now, 34 people on the call. The president's report, all of the board's committees, except for curriculum, have met in the interval of time between the 6th of January and now. So we are back in the business. Curriculum, I believe, will meet next week. We have also begun negotiations with the bargaining unit that represents our administrators. And we had our first session this evening, a little bit earlier. That went well. We expect it to go well ongoing. And finally, the new president, Joe Biden, has released his plan to get schools reopened in his first 100 days in office. It's a very detailed plan. I've sent the text to board members. It has a lot of strategies, directions for the Department of Education, the Federal Department of Education, to provide guidance to districts. Every state now will have a point person in connection with the COVID effort, which should perhaps help speed some of the efforts along. And the 100 days is a very ambitious schedule, but this is just not a big sky promise. There is a lot of individual steps that can be taken before that happens. So, and that also an executive order cannot and does not provide the resources for those steps. That depends on the Congress. So for resources, we'll have to wait and see. But the path, the new president has set forth the new path for school reopening. And that is the president's report. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Betsy. I'm going to start off by acknowledging that Ridgewood Avenue is kicking off this week by doing the Great Kindness Challenge. So they're doing different activities and encouraging students to have acts of kindness throughout the week, as they typically do throughout the year. So it's great to see that happening. We are also moving forward on the music productions at Ridgewood Avenue and at the high school. We're going to start that remotely, and with the hope that come springtime or late springtime that they'll be able to have a live performance, whether it's indoor or outdoor. But that's the goal. In my letter to the public, I did give an update of where we've been in the past week as far as new cases, COVID related, within the school system. We did have 53 school members quarantined last week, plus 4 members who had COVID. So those numbers definitely impact our operations. The teachers who may be out are working from home. I give them credit for putting in the time and wanting to be there for their students. Those individuals who are in the buildings, they're a lot of times are covering for teachers who are out. So I thank the staff for being understanding and flexible, as we're all trying to do our best to maintain consistent instruction for our students. It's important that we continue to communicate with our school nurses whenever there's anything in question, whether it's symptoms, whether it's a potential close contact, whether you have family members who are testing, even if it's not a student in one of our schools. There are strict protocols that we have to follow to make sure that we're mitigating any potential spread within the schools. We'd love to see these numbers come down, and as Betsy talked about, work towards hopefully getting more live instruction happening in comes the springtime. Um, the high school has PSATs planned for tomorrow. For those students who are taking it, the remaining students will have asynchronous planning. A little concern though is the weather, and I'm watching the weather right now and making a determination of what tomorrow is going to be like. There's a possibility we may have to have an all virtual experience tomorrow in the district, which would mean PSATs would not occur. Um, and that's difficult. We weren't able to host them in the fall because of our situation with the pandemic, and certainly this is an important experience for our students to have. Um, we're monitoring it closely, but in the end, we have to make decisions based on safety, and that's comes first and foremost. And last night, I just again want to thank the parents for their cooperation during the past few weeks as we've gotten back to live instruction throughout all our buildings in the district. That, having you work as part of the team is immensely helpful for us to continue our operations. And we look forward to individuals getting vaccinated and less quarantines and COVIDs happening within our school community. Thank you.
Okay. We have now reached the first public comment period for questions or comments on agenda items only. Our usual rules apply, and those are that if you use the participants function, if you go down to the participants function on your screen, which is at the bottom of the screen, and if you want to say something, you raise your hand, hit the raise your hand button. That will come up on my screen and I will recognize you. And then if you identify yourself, you have 2 minutes. Everyone has 2 minutes in this public comment. And we would ask that you also ask all of your questions or comments, give all your comments up front so that we can address them all as in the order of importance to you. So with that, does anyone have a public comment? Okay, I see a phone number, 917-902-6934. And I don't have a name connected to that. Okay, 917-902-6934. You're up. All right, we'll come back to you. And then I see Kristen Rodriguez.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you. I wanted to comment on the return to school. I live in Glenridge. My daughter is an 11th grader at Glenridge High School. And I have, as part of the return to school, the kids, if a teacher is not in, go to the cafeteria. But I've seen an increasing number of teachers that are not in school. And as a result, more and more kids are going to the cafeteria for more and more periods. And I have two concerns with that. The first would be the volume of students in the cafeteria. I know we're trying to keep student volume low and limit the number of students in the room. And it sounds like there are a lot. I'm not there, so I don't know exactly how many students. I'm also probably most concerned about the lack of stable Wi-Fi. So when my daughter goes to the cafeteria, she essentially is not participating in school because the Wi-Fi is unstable and she is not able to dial in. So I have I have spoken to both Mr. Liddy and Ms. Kobolinsky at the high school, but I wanted to escalate it because it seems that the situation is getting worse, and I've not actually seen any comment on what's being done to help support our students.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Phillips, would you like to tackle that?
Yes. As I mentioned earlier, we did see a number of teachers last week that were being that were out for various reasons, and that's always difficult under these situations. And what we've tried to do is to make sure that we're still providing them some instruction. As far as the Wi-Fi connection, this is the first I'm hearing about this, and I'll be following up tomorrow with the high school and the director of technology to see what's going on and find a solution for that. As the numbers were high last week. Today, when I looked at the attendance, the numbers were much better at the high school. So I'm hoping we're seeing improvements throughout the week, and we won't have the same issues that you're speaking of. One of our concerns, obviously, is safety, and we're making sure that even the students who are going to the cafeteria, that they're remaining this socially distanced 6 feet apart during that time. So that is occurring. I want to reassure you with that.
Okay, thank you. Again, 917-902-6934. Do you have a comment? All right, well, either the individual can't hear us or something's going on here. Once again, last time, oh, that person went away. All right, let's continue with the public portion of our meeting. We have, this is not the first meeting of the month, so we will not have committee and liaison reports unless someone has something that is time sensitive, an event, an outreach, something that is time sensitive. If any board members have that, please go ahead.
I'll just mention I'm the Forest Avenue School and the Ridgewood Avenue School liaisons. They are currently doing a Valentine's Day basket collections, and so obviously would love wide participation in order to support all of the people who make the schools work, who aren't necessarily teaching in the classes.
Great, thank you. It doesn't seem possible that Valentine's Day is almost upon us. And for those who are interested in numbers, we have 55 participants right now. Moving on in our agenda, we have in our packets minutes from the board meeting of January 6, 2021, exec session and regular meeting session. Michael, would you move the minutes?
Sure, I'll move M1.
All right, may I have a second? Second, anyone?
Second.
Second from Anthony, thank you. Does anyone have any corrections, additions, deletions to the minutes? All right, hearing none. Barbara, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bonnet,
Aye.
Ms. Boyavolucci,
Aye.
Mr. DeLu,
Aye.
Ms. Gottlieb,
Aye.
Ms. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubern,
Aye.
Dr. Yaros Ramos,
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Michael, would you move the administrative items, please?
Yes, I'll move A1 through A3.
Okay, may I have a second? Second, everyone?
Second.
Second from Tracy. Thank you. Are there any questions on the administrative items, which include a motion to modify the flexible spending plan, 2 HIB investigations? Any questions or comments? All right, that being the case, Barbara, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bonnet,
Aye.
Ms. Boyavolucci,
Aye.
Mr. DeLu,
Aye.
Ms. Gottlieb,
Aye.
Ms. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubern,
Aye.
Dr. Yaros Ramos,
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg.
Aye. The motion carries. Tracy, would you move the personnel items?
Yes, I move P1 through P5.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second, that's Teresa.
Second from Teresa. In keeping with our rules, personnel items are discussed in executive session. So if no one has an objection, Barbara, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bonnet.
Aye.
Ms. Boyle Belucci.
Aye.
Mr. Jalou.
Aye.
Ms. Gottlieb.
Aye.
Ms. Graham.
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubern.
Aye.
Dr. Yaris Ramos.
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg.
Aye. And motion carries. Before we move the business items, I would like to draw your attention to B2, which is donations. A monetary donation for the virtual high school AP chemistry lab valued at $725. Thank you very much to Mrs. Wong and the Education Foundation. And Tracy, I hope you'll convey that to Fran Wong. And also a monetary donation from the Epstein family in the amount of $1,500, divided equally among the Glenridge High School hockey, football, and boys lacrosse teams in honor of their son, Teddy Epstein, who graduated in the class of 2004. So Heather, would you move the business items?
Sure. I move B1 through B, I guess just 4.
Yes, no addendums tonight. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Was that Teresa?
Jocelyn.
It was Jocelyn.
Jocelyn, sorry, Jocelyn.
No worries.
Okay, we've been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, or discussion on the business items? Okay, seeing none. Barbara, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bonnet. Mr. Bonnet.
Aye.
Ms. Boyle Belucci.
Aye.
Mr. Jalou.
Aye.
Ms. Gottlieb.
Aye.
Ms. Graham.
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubern.
Aye.
Dr. Yaris Ramos.
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg.
Aye. The motion carries. We've now reached the second public comment period for comments on agenda or other items pertaining to the running of the schools. The same rules and procedures apply. And I see one hand, Cindy Manzo.
Yes, hi there. This is Cindy Manzo. I have 3 children in the Glenridge High School system, 7th, 8th, and 11th. And this is just to echo the efforts regarding the Wi-Fi in the cafeteria. I have brought this to Mr. Lawler's attention as of last week with multiple professionals also on the email, and I believe they are looking into it. Mr. Phillips, actually, you were on that email as well. So I believe it should be being worked on by now.
Anything else before Mr. Phillips answers?
Well, I'd like to know if it is being worked on.
Oh, okay, thank you. Mr. Phillips, would you like to take that on?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Ms. Manzo wanted to know with regard to the Wi-Fi in the cafeteria, if that issue or problem is being worked on. Now, I believe you said that you were going to speak to Mr. Lawler about it and also to Ms. Boswell in her position as Director of Technology.
Correct. I'll follow up. I'm not sure what has exactly been addressed at this point, so I want to make sure I have information before I answer that.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have a question or comment? I do not see it.
Betsy,
Yes.
the last in the last session, the caller was Charlie Breslin, and he couldn't get in, so he texted me. So I asked him to text me his question if he can't get in, because he must be, traveling some far-flung location and can't really connect fully.
Okay.
But I haven't seen a question from him yet.
Okay, so we'll give him a minute or so. Hopefully he was on when I announced how many people were with us, because that was one of his questions last week. Now we're up to 54. I can't guarantee that I will give numbers throughout the meeting every time, but I will try to do it every time at the beginning of the meeting. Are you seeing anything, Anthony?
I think Charlie's just trying to trick you by having been on and then dropping off and then making you give an inaccurate number.
That's probably so. That's probably so. But
Not your politics.
numbers are a moving target. Anyone will tell you that, especially people who are word people and not math people.
Betsy,
Okay.
there was
Yeah.
there was a question that had come up in the community, I believe, around the adding of additional holidays to the school
Oh,
calendar.
yes. Thank you for reminding me of that. Mr. Phillips, can you talk to us a little bit about how you make determinations about holidays within the school year, given the context of the 180-day rule that the state mandates?
Yeah, well, the process for creating the school calendar is a little bit of a puzzle when you're trying to make sure that you're getting the 180 days in, scheduling the emergency school days, along with giving the necessary breaks that students need in order to remain fresh and refresh throughout the school year. So we do have a few holidays, religious holidays that are part of our school calendar. And we did get a request that for Rosh Hashanah that we recognize the first 2 days and have school closed on those 2 days. Traditionally, we haven't done that. The difficulty we have with acknowledging religious holidays is if you go to the state's website where schools that can recognize religious holidays, there's roughly 250 days that could be recognized as religious holidays. And as our community becomes more diverse and our teaching staff becomes more diverse, we can't recognize all the religious holidays that are being celebrated within our school community. So I think the district looks at our population and what majority is recognizing. I think we look at our historically where these holidays fall and how we can work around certain breaks perhaps. So when we're creating our calendar, we do look at requests. In this case, the request to have the first 2 days for the next school year, we've set that calendar. We just thought at this time we're going to stay with our current board approved calendar for next school year. And it's a discussion that as we move forward, we can certainly have. There's always a little give and take. If you want to start adding additional days in the school calendars, well, what does that mean for the entire calendar? Is it taking away other holidays? Is it extending the school year? So, you know, do we look at our breaks a little bit differently? Those are all things that we will need to consider.
So at this time, nothing's set in cement for the next time we do the calendar.
Correct.
I'm
Okay.
a little curious how we gather that information to make these determinations to add new holidays or I guess take away.
We have, well, I think that's something that we would have to discuss as a board. It's something we haven't really done in the calendars since I've been superintendent. The significant change that was made under my tenure was revising our February break. And obviously that had some pros and cons to it. Educationally, it was the correct move in my opinion, and that's why I recommended it. But as far as adding different holidays to the school calendar, that's something that we could discuss in our policy committee and then make a recommendation. But again, it's a little give and take there of if you're going to start adding additional holidays to the calendar, what are you changing to accommodate those?
Okay, I do know that our colleagues in Milburn and elsewhere have had the same issue come up because of changing demographics in their districts. The need for holidays and days off has changed over time. So, and they dealt with it, I think, through their personnel committee as well. So, personnel and policy committee as well. So it's certainly not something. It's certainly something we can always discuss.
So, Mr. Phillips, can you also speak to the fact that the staff is aware of these holidays and that it's sort of an understanding that there's not supposed to be any tests or assignments due surrounding those holidays?
Correct. So typically, what especially Rosh Hashanah, our staff is told not to assign homework and not to have any assessments when the students return for the next day back at school. We do not hold athletic any co-curricular events during the first 2 nights. So we try to be respectful to the holidays and not what I'd say punish a student for celebrating their holiday. And that goes for other holidays where students who need to take off because we don't have their recognized religious holiday off from school. So they're entitled to take that day off as an excused absence. Our teachers are asked to work with the students, and if they're involved in co-curricular activity, there's no penalty for missing that co-curricular activity.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on that subject? All right, Anthony, have you heard from Charlie?
Yes, I have, and he did not have a comment, so I think he was just having malfunctions attending the meeting via phone and just couldn't become an attendee without somehow raising his hand. I don't know. He had no questions, though.
Okay, thank you. And last call, is there anyone else with a question or comment for the board? All right, that being the case, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Moved by Michael. May I have a second?
Second.
Second from Anthony. Motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.